My guest today is Gloria Masters. She is an author, an advocate, and an activist for all things child sexual abuse. She speaks from 16 years of lived experience and has managed to turn the final caller of healing into giving back. She does this through highlighting the issue of child sexual abuse to help other survivors. She is currently writing her second book, Flightpath to Healing, which is a guide for survivors. She's a mother, and her career includes teaching, therapy, and business consulting. She regularly blogs on gloriamasters.com and has created the podcast, Handing the Shame Back, which is a safe space for other survivors to share their stories. Her focus is on hope, love, and joy, and she follows her angels wherever they lead her. So welcome to the show, Gloria. It's so lovely to have you here all the way from New Zealand, and thanks for staying up late for us.
Hey, an honour to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we should say, obviously, from your bio at the start of the show, that we do discuss childhood sexual abuse. So if someone is listening and they're not quite healed, just, take good self-care is really what I would say. We won't try not to trigger anyone. But anyway,
Yes.
the first question I ask every one of my guests that comes on the show, because we are called Unbroken, the podcast, is that what does that word unbroken mean to you, Gloria?
Oak tree. Because an oak tree stands, and it stands the test of time. The wind, the rain, the hail, the torrents can come flying at it, and it may bend, but it never breaks.
It is beautiful, isn't it? And it also means that your roots are firmly grounded.
Yeah.
Which I love. And I have read your book. I have worked a lot with childhood sexual abuse, but I was shocked at the level of abuse that you experience. And it's not an easy read, but I think it's a very important read for people to realize just what can take place, but also on the flip side of that, how you can survive something so deprived. So could you tell us really, I guess, what age the abuse started? You were very little really, weren't you?
Yeah, so infant, and up until the age of 16, when I no longer had to see my father. So that was, the numbers 1 and 6 have always meant a lot to me, and I had never realised why until I started writing my own book, and then it hit me. I always used to look for the numbers 1 and 6 everywhere I went, and that's why.
And that gives me shivers because I also have a magical number, different numbers, 44. And it appears to me, it manifests itself in so many ways. So it's interesting, isn't it, the numerology in that. But so you were just very little, and there was a time when your parents separated and you were just 11, and you were given a choice of which parent to live with. We have to say that your mum was quite neglectful as well. She kind of abused you in different ways. But you went to live with your father and your dad. And could you speak a little bit about how that was for you?
Yeah, so look, when I was 11 years of age, my parents separated, and we were made to line up in the lounge and told who to choose, with the very strong, emphatic emphasis being on what you choose, you cannot change your mind on. And my father tricked me. He promised me a horse. Well, that never eventuated, but the next 18 months living in his house were unbelievable, Madeleine. Just abuse, psychological torture. And, I believe he's a psychopath, or he is passed now, but he was definitely a deranged psychopath. And I'm very grateful to be alive and have emerged through it, sane and whole.
Because sadly, it wasn't just the abuse that you experienced from your father and your brother. He also prostituted you to paedophile rings, and you were a sex slave, basically, weren't you?
Yes. So from the time I was very little, I was trained by my father's mother and one of his sisters in the art of seduction, and they were paid a commission by my father to ensure that I delivered the best sexual repertoire I could, so the pedophiles would pay more. My thing is this, one of the real focuses I have is the power of the silence out there around this topic.
Yeah.
And my real core objective for me is to help others to hand the shame back by even speaking to a friend or writing out what happened to them. You don't have to do what you did, Madeleine, and what I'm doing, which is write a book and create platforms to share. You can do it very gently and quietly and privately.
Yeah.
But I truly believe, even now as we're speaking, we're handing the shame back.
Absolutely.
Because the more we speak, the less power this has. The body never lies and the body never forgets.
Absolutely. And I always think, well, that's one less that I ever have to have again. And also, it's a little bit like a contraction, you know, that it's hard for a while, but then that one's done. And then we're going to get the baby at the end, you know. And if anyone's listening and we're not making light of it, you know, we can laugh and we can smile about it, which is what I want people to hear as well. And like you, it's about the hope and the love and the joy. And yeah, there's so many similarities. So was it therapeutic for you to write your story down, and how did that process work?
Well, it was interesting. It was such a duality, actually, because on the one hand, it was so therapeutic, and I wrote in 7 weeks. Draft number 1 was done in 7 weeks. But it was so traumatizing because here I am, Miss Braveheart, and I'm out there walking the area where the abuse occurred, my school outside the old family home. Big mistake. I was doing it by myself, and I rang my therapist, and she said, "What's going on?" And I just burst into tears, and I said, "I'm just doing some research for the book." And she said, "Don't you ever, ever do that alone again. Yeah. You cannot be alone. You were alone then. Yeah. It's just re-traumatizing." So
and
look,
I
I'm not trying to
understand that because, you know, the block of flats where I was raped when I was younger, I could never drive past it. I couldn't even look at it. And just the other week I was in London and we drove past it, and I thought, it's okay now. It's really, it's done. And I actually even told my youngest, who was in the car, that's where it took place, and they never knew that. So it was interesting, really interesting to see. Can we test ourselves and we don't get triggered anymore? What do your children know of what happened to you? Have they read your book?
No, and I've protected them a bit actually from this, because to me I'm just their lovely, annoying, frustrating, wonderful mother, which is great, which is exactly what I want them to have, that relationship with me. But they got very traumatized just hearing about it. So, you know, I'm always going to be a lovely mum. God knows where I got that from. And protect the children. If they ever want to read it, they can do that easily. But I don't need them to for my sake. I'm fine.
But do you speak to them about the angels? Are there angels around them as well?
Yes, constantly. Yeah.
So they came to you, but you can now draw on them when you need them, or are they always with you, your angels?
Oh, I was talking to them just before you and I came on, because I really feel as though I'm guided. I feel like I'm here as a person who's potentially carrying a bit of a light for others. So
I'd say you've been a bit modest there. It's a bit more than a bit of a light. It's as if you are a vessel, really, and they are guiding that vessel.
Yeah.
And do you think we all have angels around us, but we just don't know how to access them, or we haven't been? I think when you go to the edge of the earth, we're then taken to another dimension, aren't we?
Yes, and absolutely. And that happened to me several times, and I nearly lost my life, and that was what that was. But the point is, I'd talk to them all the time because they were all I had, and I was so isolated and left and abandoned. I just had to find a way to manage them. It wasn't really safe for me to have friends around. So I think, with the angels, for people, and your question is, do we all have it? Yes, we do. And I think sometimes what we do as humans is we wait till we're at the edge, and then we say, help, can you give me a hand up? And I guess the angels just want us to know, look, we've got you, we're around you, we're holding you. And there's kind of, if I say a reason for everything, I don't mean to minimize at all what people go through. Please, no
Yeah,
one
that's a
take
tricky
that.
one with me, because I used to think, oh, everything happens for a reason. But now I don't know. Now I think we can make reason out of things that happen to us.
That's probably more
Yeah,
it.
and we can turn our pain
Absolutely.
into purpose. So I kind of
That's it.
flipped it,
Yeah.
because everyone used to say, well, everything happens for a reason. I think, bloody hell, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think I've made reason from it. And what do you do
Yes.
about people? I mean, were you worried about exposing the angels? If people kind of poo-pooed them when they read your book, or they dismissed it, was that ever a concern, or do you have that?
Go hard. Do whatever you want. It's not what you think about me is not my problem. I'm here with love and light, and just doing my best to share this so other survivors out there, up to 1 in 3 in our country, as one report, can perhaps feel a little bit less alone. So
You are such a really very moved to speak to you, because you are so centered and grounded despite all the degradation and everything that you went through. It is a remarkable journey. So before we sign off, because the time just whizzes by, anybody listening right now, anything that you haven't said that you'd like to, or any kind of words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with, here's your chance.
okay, so never doubt yourself. Never ever doubt that what emerges in you isn't true, because you have this, truth deep down. Your body doesn't lie. And I just want to give all you survivors a big hug out there, and just let you know you're never alone. We stand with you. And that's my angels as well. So
Absolutely. Just leaves me to thank you so much for staying up late over the other side of the world for us. And I know this episode, sadly, will resonate with many people. So I'm grateful for you and your voice, and just the beautiful being that you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.